But anyway, this has been fun, but I think the fun is really about to get ramped up a bit because for me, and I respectfully disagree with you, Tyler, but I think running back is the best position on the team. It's got at least one guy that's pretty proven in Ramir Johnson. He's got plenty of talent, got plenty of wiggle. We, of course, for someone like him, it's always been what longevity, durability. It's kind of been his problem, especially last year. He got beat up pretty badly by the end of the season. So, starting with you, Justin, why don't let's just go around the table and pick our starter, just our starter, and then we'll go back around and go second and then third string. So who do you have starting?
Ramir Johnson.
Day
It's
one?
his job. It's his spot to lose, in my opinion. I mean, the way that he finished up the season last year, he can do it all. Scott, you were talking about his hands. Yes, he can catch the ball. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be catching the ball out of the backfield. He can run it up the middle as what he's shown last year. I mean, it's his job to lose. I mean, our running backs, as many guys that we played last year, there's really only one dude that really shined.
Yep.
And that's Ramir Johnson.
Mostly due to injury, but yeah, I agree with you.
I mean,
I agree with you.
we're going to talk about Irvin in a second, but did Irvin blow your mind at all the time that he played? Hell
he
no,
was getting there. He was getting there. I thought he was getting there. I thought he was showing something in that OU game until he went down. Yeah, I thought he was looking a little better. But then again, let's give the kid a little bit of a break. He didn't exactly have an offensive line in front of him that was worth 6 craps from Sunday. So half the time they were getting blown up into the backfield, and he was trying to make things work. And it's hard to do as a 18-year-old coming out of high school to try to figure out how to line. Yeah, he did, but they had kind of figured some things out by the time he got in there. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. But so you've got Johnson starting. Who else has Ramir Johnson starting in amongst the panel? Okay, you've got him, Derrick.
Oh, the Husker Cuz Cast, unanimous.
I'm going to be the outlier. I think Grant gets it done. I think Grant runs out there first. How about you, Scott? What do you think for running back?
Honestly, I don't know what to think. Because with Brian Applewhite, like, it's kind of hard to read the guy in exactly what his his prototypical apex running back would look like. Obviously, he just wants a guy who's going to get the job done. Obviously, Ramir Johnson has proven that he can get the job done. But if I were to be a running backs coach, which I'm not, and I don't know diddly squat about it, and I were to interpret, well, what kind of running back do I need in the Big Ten to be successful? I think you need a bigger guy. And Ramir Johnson is athletic. He showed he's capable, but why is it that he doesn't have, like an Amir Abdullah type of stat line? And I think it's honestly just because he's just a little bit undersized. And I really struggle
in size, though.
Amir Abdullah had about 10 pounds on him. He's like 195.
He's
and
200
Ramir Johnson.
Yeah.
Ramir's he was sitting right
at
about
to get to 180.
Yeah, Ramir's struggling, like at best on a full stomach and a wet t-shirt, like he's at about 185. And if I were Brian Applewhite trying to interpret the Big Ten and what he wants in a guy, I mean, it's obviously Ramir Johnson's job to lose, but I think it's a really easy job to lose when you are as undersized as you are. Like that's okay. That's my thing. So I do have Anthony Grant as the starter.
Is Anthony Grant that much bigger than Ramir?
I think he's up in that 200-pound range. He's kind of a bowling ball, and he's pretty doggone quick and strong. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's 210. He's 210.
I don't hate that. I'm not gonna say. I think Anthony Grant's a great pick, and I think he's a really good talent. I think the one thing that no one mentioned on Ramir Johnson that I need to throw out is I think he's underrated in pass protection.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think he does a really good job, and it could, especially when you expect to be maybe a little bit more passing last year. Not only can he what he do out of the backfield, that is special. I think you keep him in pass protection. I have a lot of confidence in him covering Casey Thompson's ass.
Well, that was one of the things that was said last year. Why he was getting more playing time even early on over guys like Step.
Yeah,
Step he sucked in pass protection, and as bad as that offensive line was last year, the running back was asked to do quite a lot of things.
And
Step's a big dude too.
Yeah, and again, and Ramir Johnson, he's not big. I'm not saying you guys aren't wrong in that take that he's not a big physical guy, but he runs tough.
I think it's also really hard to okay, if I were running backs coach, I would want a big, fast guy. That's what you want in a running back. So Anthony Grant. But then if you think about a Mark Whipple and being the offensive coordinator, what does he want to do? He wants to pass the ball. So it makes more sense to have a proven multi-purpose running back who can also swing to the outside like a Ramir Johnson would be able to do and trust his hands. And so there's
a key word you use there that is why I picked Ramir Johnson is because he's proven. And he's the only proven guy that we really have back there. And it shocks me that everybody's so high on these running backs when really we have one proven guy back there. And I don't know that I don't know that Ramir Johnson's starting at 12 of the 14 Big Ten schools, but I think he's the best we got right now. And the rest of it's unproven. I don't know what they bring.
I'm with you. I understand that take. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, and Scott, can I go to give my second running back because I think Scott kind of set me up perfect. You mentioned a big, fast guy. That goes my number 2 guy, Jacques. I mean, you want to talk about the big, fast, stereotypical running back that has all the athletic attributes. I mean, Yant is enigma in a riddle. I think I'm taking
You're butchering the shit out of it.
And what
is it? An enigma wrapped in a
riddle, something like that. I don't know. This guy could not play a snap this fall, or he could be a starter. I mean, Jacques is all over the place. I don't know what to make. When I look at that running back room, he is the guy that's different to me. He is the guy that just physically is just different.
It reminds me of Divine Azigbo.
I think he's more athletic than Zigbo. I think he is faster than Zigbo. I don't know if he's a physical runner. I don't think he's
faster.
I don't think he's faster, but I do think that he has I think that he could potentially be as good as a Zigbo if he can get that top end speed, or more so an acceleration ability.
But it's my number 2.
All right, Derek, who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Grant. I think Yant gets a lot of playing time, but I think it's gonna be more situational. And okay. I think Grant's a little more of a total package than Yant is.
Okay,
right.
And I'll just write off of that. Yeah, I agree with Derek. Anthony Grant, from what we saw out of him out of the spring game, which again wasn't much.
One play. I mean,
pretty much.
We're really basing it
off. And he should have been down.
Whatever. I mean, in game time, he wouldn't have been down. But I mean, and as far as Jacques Yant, in the spring game in the first half there's all these things that he was complaining about. I was like, oh, I wasn't down. In the second half, he was getting tackled. I mean, he wasn't breaking anything in the second half. He was pouting all he wanted in the first half. It's like, oh, I wasn't down. I got touched. But you know what? In the second half, he never broke the mold of saying why he, why those should have been longer.
No, he was good for 4, 5, 6 yards. That's why you bring him in for situational football.
That's fine. But Anthony Grant's my number 2.
Anthony Grant. My number 2 is everybody else's, or most everybody else's number 1. That would be Ramir Johnson, which should be obvious. He's the guy with the most experience, and I would not be surprised to see kind of a Weeback situation between the two of them, like they had back in the 90s with Calvin Jones and Derrick Brown.
And that's what I think is going to happen. I think Ramir Johnson's going to be your technical starter, but I think you're going to see a lot of rotation between those two guys.
Yep. I'm with you. And Scott, what do you think on your number 2 feller?
Yeah, I've got Ramir Johnson. The way that I actually wrote out my running backs position in my mind was like, who's our truck and who's our turbo? Like and you would have a number 1 in a truck position and a number 1 in a turbo position. And I've got Anthony Grant as a guy who's big and can be physical. And then I've got Ramir Johnson as number 1 if he was a turbo. And then that makes the number 1 and number 2. And then I've got Yant and I've got Gabe Ervin. And I think they're completely interchangeable. Ramir Johnson is number 2 by default just because of his experience. But I think at any point throughout the season, we could definitely see anybody out of these 4 guys that I have: Anthony Grant, Gabe Ervin, Jacques Yant, and Ramir Johnson. You could see any one of them really take off and be our bell cow.
All right.
That's how I interpret it.
So then you're the guy that you think will be the 3rd running back. You going with Yant, or you going with someone else?
Yeah, I'd go. Actually, no, I don't know. It could be. It's a coin flip between Ervin and Yant.
Gotta pick. You gotta pick Scott. Don't make him.
Come on, man.
Flip that coin.
I'm gonna pick
Yant.
Yeah,
I'm picking Yant. Yeah, just because I like the dude. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, I like the kid too, but I don't like him enough to be number 3. I like Ervin, believe it or not. I think he's pissed that he got hurt going into Oklahoma and he was about ready to break a big run when his knee popped. I think he's pissed. I think he's used that to fuel himself. He's a big kid, 6'1", 6'2", 210. He's a good-sized kid. I think he's a nice changeup, and he's hellaciously good at pass blocking. That's why he started as a true freshman, was he was a good pass blocker, and God knows we needed some protection for Adrian all season. So
wait, how did that work in the Illinois game, though?
It didn't work well because we didn't realize they were going to come out.
Nothing worked well in the.
Oh yeah, because it was the even front. Oh fuck, we don't know an even front.
How's an even front work? What's that? Yeah, it was terrible.
No idea how to coach
Absolutely
against an
terrible.
even front.
And even the coaches were fighting about what to tell the press afterwards. So yeah, it was a mess. That game was a mess. So Tyler, who do you got for number 3?
You guys have all mentioned him. Anthony Grant's my number 3. I do think it's a really close race with him and Jacques Yant. It will be. There's a lot of backs in this room, and I think the gaps between them all is really small. I do wonder how many snaps there are to go around. I mean, I'll be honest. Gabe Ervin was in that conversation with me, and AJ Allen was in that conversation with me. But I do think Anthony Grant's interesting. Look at the recent history of JUCOs coming to Lincoln. You had Mills. You had, Anthony. Was it his name? Greg Anthony? Am I butchering that?
Something like that.
He played for like 6 snap games and left.
I don't remember.
Oh, Greg Bell.
Greg Bell.
Greg Bell.
Greg Anthony was a basketball player.
Yeah.
I was like, that didn't sound right. But you've seen these guys that come in, and they've all been good. And I think the thing about Grant is I think he's about that caliber. And the fact that I have him 3rd gives me more confidence in that room, because I think he's a good player. I think like in a couple of years past, like he would have been the starter. He would have been the guy. And the fact that I got him 3rd kind of shows where I think this room is going. And it's
Weren't you just talking shit about this room, but right before the wide receiver?
Oh, no, I was praising the wide receivers.
But you were talking shit about running backs.
No, I said you guys all are going to have the running backs the best. I'm going to have the wide receivers the best.
All right, fair.
Go ahead, Justin. Who do you
all
got?
Right, so to recap here, I have Ramir Johnson as my number 1. Anthony Grant as my number 2. For the 3rd guy, that's kind of like a wild card slot here. I mean, I think there's several names that you can plug in here with Yaquez Yant, Gabe Ervin, and maybe even AJ Allen. But I put Gabe Ervin in the slot just because he did start last year. Not that he really did anything, but I mean, it's a wild card slot. But what I think is interesting about all this conversation is one name that I never even considered for this third running back slot is Marquez Stepp, and he's a junior. And I don't know what, he's one of the eldest running backs in the room, and I just don't see a spot in him. Tyler, you were talking about A.J. Allen, and I like A.J. Allen's prospects about seeing the field a little bit more than Stepp.
Sure, me too.
I agree. I think early in the season, I think what gets interesting is you go back and look at Minnesota last year. Minnesota got beat to shit, and they were playing their fourth, fifth guy. God will that doesn't happen to Lincoln. But if that does happen, if you're going to pick a fifth string running back, Marquez Stepp's not a bad name to have back there. I guess that's kind of my perspective.
Hey, do you think he's kicking himself in the ass for leaving USC as Lincoln Riley comes in?
His ass would have been cut.
His ass would have been gone anyway.
You think so?
Yeah, he'd have been gone anyway. He wouldn't have fit that system. Derrick, who you got at number 3?
I have to go with Yant just because I called him the situational guy, and I think he's got the best chances of getting on the field. I love Gabe Ervin, I do, and I would love to pick him as my number 3 running back, but since I've got Yant as my situational guy, I think he's got to be your technical number 3 guy.
Yeah,